English While You Listen podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Emma. Great to be here. If this is your first time, welcome. And if you're back from episode 1, hello again.
In our last episode, we talked about the winter blues, how to keep your energy up during dark, cold months. Today's topic is something completely different.
Yes, and honestly, it's a topic I have very strong personal feelings about. Today we're asking, are the morning routines of successful people actually real, or is the whole thing just a myth?
You've probably seen those articles, wake up at 5 a.m. like Elon Musk, or Tim Cook starts his day at 3:45 a.m.
And I used to read those and genuinely feel bad about myself. Like, I wake up at 7:30 and immediately check my phone. Am I doomed to be unsuccessful forever?
I had the same crisis, so we decided to actually dig into the research. Today, we'll look at what science says, explore the real routines of famous people, and help you build a morning that works for you.
With real lives.
Not for some billionaire with a personal chef and no school run to deal with. For real people.
Exactly. And as always, we'll be introducing useful vocabulary throughout. Ready?
Ready. Let's go. So let's start with the big question. Emma, what's your honest gut feeling? Is the successful morning routine a real thing, or is it mostly hype?
Okay, honest answer, I used to think it was complete hype, because every article I read felt like it was written to make normal people feel inadequate. But then I actually started looking at the research, and I changed my mind, at least partially.
That's exactly where I landed too. The science is real, but the way it gets packaged and sold to us, that part is definitely exaggerated.
Right. Like the science says routines help your brain, but the internet version says you need to wake up at 4 a.m. and meditate for an hour or you're basically failing at life.
Exactly. And there's actually a logical problem with the whole copy a billionaire's morning idea. It's a classic case of confusing correlation with causation.
Oh, I love this concept. Correlation versus causation. Let me explain it for our listeners. Correlation means two things happen together or seem connected. Causation means one thing actually causes the other. These are very different.
So yes, many successful people wake up early, but that doesn't mean waking up early makes you successful. The connection might work the other way around entirely.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Successful people often have more control over their schedules. They can afford to structure their mornings however they want. So maybe the early wake-up is a result of success, not the cause of it.
Well said. And there's another word I want to introduce here, intentionality. It means doing things on purpose with a clear goal, rather than just going through the motions.
And I think intentionality is actually the real secret, not the specific time you wake up. Whether you start your day at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m., if you do it intentionally and with a plan, that's what makes the difference.
Let's get into the actual science now. One of the most interesting concepts is decision fatigue. Emma, do you want to take this one?
Yes, so decision fatigue is the idea that our brains have a limited amount of mental energy for making decisions each day. Every choice you make, even tiny ones like what to have for breakfast or what to wear, uses up some of that energy.
And the fascinating thing is, this is exactly why some of the most famous people in the world wear the same outfit every day. Steve Jobs in his black turtleneck, Mark Zuckerberg with his gray t-shirts.
Which always seemed weird to me until I understood the logic. They're not boring, they're deliberately eliminating one small daily decision to preserve what researchers call cognitive resources.
Cognitive resources. Exactly. Your mental capacity for thinking, planning, and problem solving. By automating small morning decisions, you save those resources for the important stuff.
I actually started doing a version of this without realizing it. I lay out my clothes the night before, and I prep my breakfast in advance. And honestly, my mornings feel so much less stressful.
That's a perfect example. A consistent routine essentially automates the first part of your day, so your brain doesn't have to work hard before you even get to the office.
Now, there's another piece of science I find really interesting, the cortisol awakening response. Daniel, tell us about.
So, cortisol is what we called the stress hormone back in episode 1, but here's the nuance. It naturally spikes in the morning, about 30 to 45 minutes after waking. And in the morning, that spike is actually a good thing.
It's your body's way of saying, hey, the day is starting, time to get going.
Exactly. It's your built-in alarm system. The issue only comes when cortisol stays high all day. In the morning, it's fuel, so the goal is to work with that natural energy boost, not against it.
Which means, and this blew my mind when I found out, you probably shouldn't drink coffee the moment you wake up.
Right, because if you add caffeine during your natural cortisol peak, you're basically doubling up on alertness that's already there. The caffeine is less effective.
The optimal time for your first coffee is about 90 minutes to 2 hours after waking, when your cortisol starts to drop naturally. That's when caffeine actually fills a real gap.
I shifted my coffee time by about an hour after learning this, and I genuinely notice a difference. I feel more alert later in the morning.
Me too. It felt wrong at first, like my hand just automatically reaches for the coffee machine. But once you break that habit, it's really worth it.
Okay, let's talk about real people, because this is where it gets interesting and sometimes surprising.
Yes, and I want to start with Oprah Winfrey because her routine is often held up as this impossible ideal. But when you look at the actual details, it's quite human.
What does her morning look like?
She starts with about 20 minutes of meditation, which she's talked about publicly as the foundation of her day, then some exercise, usually walking, then journaling and breakfast. It's calm, it's intentional, and it focuses on mental well-being first.
And what I find interesting is that she doesn't start by checking emails or jumping into work. She protects that first hour for herself.
Exactly. The lesson isn't copy Oprah's exact routine. The lesson is she starts her day for herself, not for other people's demands.
Now let's talk about Barack Obama, because his routine genuinely surprised me when I researched it.
Oh yes, tell us, because people assume he must be up at 4 a.m., right?
Totally wrong. Obama reportedly wakes up around 7 a.m. He works out for about 45 minutes, weights and cardio, reads multiple newspapers, and he was famously protective of family breakfast time with his daughters, even during his presidency.
So, one of the most powerful people in the world prioritized a normal wake-up time and family connection. That's a completely different story from the hustle at 4 a.m. narrative.
And then there's Charles Darwin. I find his routine fascinating from a productivity perspective.
Darwin is such a great example. He woke up at 7, took a short walk, had breakfast, and then worked in focused sessions of about 90 minutes with breaks in between. He almost never worked in the evenings.
And yet, he produced some of the most influential scientific work in human history. So the 16-hour workday myth is completely contradicted by his example.
This connects to something called deep work versus shallow work, a concept from researcher Cal Newport. I think it's really important for understanding why routine matters.
Go ahead.
So, deep work means focused, cognitively demanding tasks: writing, thinking, creating, problem solving. Shallow work is everything else: emails, admin, routine tasks. Newport's research shows that most people can only sustain genuine deep work for a few hours a day. After that, the quality drops sharply.
So the goal of a morning routine isn't to squeeze in as much time as possible. It's to protect your peak hours for the work that actually matters most.
Exactly. And Darwin instinctively understood this, even without the modern research. He structured his day around his cognitive peaks and didn't push past them.
Now here's the concept that I think changes everything, and it's completely missing from most morning routine advice.
Chronotypes. This is my favorite part of today's episode, honestly.
Tell us about chronotypes, Emma.
Okay, so a chronotype is your body's natural, genetically determined preference for sleep and wakefulness. Some people are morning larks. They wake up naturally early, feel great in the morning, and start fading by evening. Others are night owls. They struggle to wake up early but hit peak mental performance late at night.
And the key word there is genetically determined. This is not about willpower or discipline. Your chronotype is literally coded into your DNA.
And research suggests about 25% of people are true morning types, 25% are genuine night owls, and the rest falls somewhere in between. So statistically, half the people reading morning routine advice are working against their own biology.
Which is why forcing yourself to wake up at 5 a.m. when you're a night owl doesn't just feel bad, it actually is bad. It creates what researchers call social jet lag.
I love this term, social jet lag. It's what happens when your social schedule, meaning work, school, obligations, chronically misaligns with your biological clock, like regular jet lag, but every single week.
And the consequences are real. Poor sleep quality, lower concentration, worse mood, and over time, increased health risks.
I actually identified as a night owl for most of my 20s, and then I got a job with an early start time and spent 2 years feeling permanently jet-lagged. Now that I have more flexibility, I wake up about an hour later, and the difference in how I feel is dramatic.
That's such a relatable story, and the message for listeners is, if you can find even a small amount of flexibility in your schedule, try to align it with your chronotype. Even 30 to 60 minutes can make a real difference.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are the evidence-based morning habits that actually work, regardless of what time you wake up?
Number 1 is avoiding your phone for the first 20 to 30 minutes. I know we keep saying this, but it really is that important.
And I want to explain why, because just being told don't check your phone never worked for me until I understood the reason. When you check your phone first thing, you immediately enter reactive mode.
Reactive versus proactive, important contrast. Reactive means responding to other people's agendas. Proactive means setting your own.
Right. The moment you open your messages or social media, you're letting someone else decide what your first thoughts of the day will be. You're handing over control of your mental state before you've even had a chance to find it.
And once you understand it that way, it becomes much easier to resist. You're not just avoiding your phone, you're protecting the first chapter of your day.
I started putting my phone in a different room at night. Game changer. I now have a proper alarm clock, which feels very retro, but it means my phone is not the first thing I touch in the morning.
Number 2, drink water before anything else. You've been asleep for 7 or 8 hours. Your body is dehydrated. Even mild dehydration affects concentration and mood.
I keep a big glass of water on my bedside table the night before. That way, it's literally the first thing I reach for. Takes zero willpower.
That's brilliant habit design, making the good behavior the easiest option. Number 3, get natural light within the first hour. Even 10 to 15 minutes by a window or outside helps set your circadian rhythm and suppress the sleep hormone melatonin.
I now have my coffee 90 minutes after waking, as we discussed, by the window, so I'm combining the light exposure with something I was already doing. That's what they call habit stacking.
Habit stacking, great term. It means linking a new habit to an existing one. You're far more likely to follow through when a new behavior is attached to something you already do automatically.
Let's talk about why morning routines fail, because I've started and abandoned probably 6 different morning routines in my life.
I think most people can relate to that. The usual reason is starting too ambitiously. You get inspired, you decide to completely transform your morning, and by day 4, you've given up.
The research on habit formation is really clear on this. Building a genuine habit takes anywhere from 21 to 66 days, depending on the person and the complexity of the habit. Not 7 days, not 2 weeks.
In that 21-day figure that everyone quotes, that's the absolute minimum, and it only applies to the simplest possible habits. For something meaningful, expect closer to 2 months.
So patience is key, and starting small is key. Researchers talk about something called a keystone habit, one central habit that anchors everything else.
The word keystone comes from architecture. It's the central stone in an arch that holds all the other stones in place. Remove it, and the arch collapses.
A keystone habit works the same way. It's one behavior that, when you do it consistently, naturally supports other positive behaviors. Making your bed is the classic example. Small, quick, but it creates a sense of order that sets a productive tone for the whole day.
For me, my keystone habit is making coffee properly, like actually grinding the beans and using the French press rather than just pressing a button. It sounds small, but that 5 minutes of intentional preparation signals to my brain that the day is starting thoughtfully.
I love that. And for me, it's 5 minutes of journaling, just writing down 3 things I want to accomplish today and 1 thing I'm grateful for. It takes literally 5 minutes, but it gives me a sense of direction.
And both of those create what psychologists call psychological momentum, small early wins that build confidence and energy for the rest of the day.
Psychological momentum. I think that's maybe the most important concept in this whole episode, because the morning isn't just about productivity, it's about how you feel when you walk into the rest of your day.
Exactly, and what creates that feeling is different for everyone. The goal is to find your keystone, start there, and build slowly.
And if you miss a day or a week, that's okay. Research shows that 1 missed day doesn't break a habit. The pattern matters more than perfection.
Before we wrap up, let's do some quick myth busting. Emma, fire away.
Okay, myth 1. You must wake up before 6 a.m. to be successful.
Myth. As we've seen with Obama and Darwin, what time you wake up matters far less than what you do with that time. Success has no specific alarm clock setting.
Myth 2. Cold showers in the morning will transform your life.
Partially true, mostly exaggerated. Cold showers do trigger an adrenaline response, which increases alertness temporarily. But transform your life? That's marketing, not science.
I tried the cold shower thing for 3 weeks. It was absolutely awful, and I felt no different.
Same experience here. Myth 3. Hitting the snooze button is always bad.
Oh, this one's interesting. So there is a real phenomenon called sleep inertia, that groggy, confused feeling you get when you're woken in the middle of a sleep cycle. And repeatedly snoozing can worsen it because your brain keeps starting new cycles and getting interrupted.
So the snooze button isn't evil, but it can make sleep inertia worse. A better strategy is to set your alarm for when you actually intend to get up, rather than setting it early with the intention of snoozing.
Myth 4. Morning routines are only for people with free time.
Myth, full stop. You can have a meaningful morning routine in 10 minutes. It's about intention, not duration. Even parents with young children, people with long commutes, shift workers, everyone can find some version of an intentional start to their day.
Even if it's just 1 minute of deep breathing before you get out of bed, that counts. That's intentional. That's a routine.
Okay, let's recap. Emma, do you want to start?
Of course. So, the successful morning routine is partly myth, partly reality. The science is solid, but the specific advice you see online, 4 a.m. wake-ups, 2-hour routines, is exaggerated and ignores individual differences.
We looked at real routines. Oprah's mindfulness-first approach, Obama's balanced morning with family time, Darwin's focused work bursts with regular rest. No one-size-fits-all formula.
Decision fatigue. Routines protect your cognitive resources by automating small choices. That's why Jobs wore the same outfit every day, and why it actually makes sense.
The cortisol awakening response, your natural morning energy spike, and why timing your coffee about 90 minutes after waking actually makes it more effective.
Chronotypes. The biological, genetic reason some of us are morning larks and others are night owls. And social jet lag, the real health cost of fighting your chronotype every day.
Practical habits. No phone for 20 to 30 minutes, water first, natural light within the first hour. 3 free things that genuinely make a difference.
And the psychology of habits, why Keystone habits matter, why you need patience, and why psychological momentum is more powerful than any perfect routine.
Now, let's go over today's vocabulary.
And correlation versus causation. 2 things appearing together doesn't mean one causes the other. Intentionality, doing things with purpose and direction. Decision fatigue, mental drain from too many choices.
Cognitive resources, your mental capacity for thinking and problem solving. Deep work versus shallow work. Focused, important tasks versus routine admin. Chronotype, your genetic sleep-wake preference.
Social jet lag, when your schedule chronically misaligns with your biological clock. Keystone habit, one anchor habit that supports all others. Psychological momentum, the energy from small early wins. And habit stacking, linking a new habit to an existing one.
10 vocabulary items today. Well done for keeping up. Try using at least one this week.
Tell someone about your chronotype. Ask them about theirs. It really is a great conversation.
We'd love to know, what's your Keystone morning habit? The one thing you do every day. Let us know.
And if today's episode helped someone you know stop feeling guilty about not being a morning person, please share it with them.
Thanks so much for listening. Sleep well, start intentionally, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.